Go ahead and call to order the Thursday, November 12th, 2020 meeting of the Clive City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Xena.
Here.
Council members Klein.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
McCoy.
Here.
Judkins.
Here.
And Weaver.
Here.
Nice to see everybody tonight, all present and accounted for. Our next item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think we're going to have Matthew recite that for us tonight. Matthew?
Will do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Next item is approval of the agenda. I'm not aware of any changes.
Move approval. Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Eric. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The agenda is approved. Okay, the next item is citizens presentation. This is where anyone is joining us on the call to address the council on an item that is not currently on the agenda this evening. If you are here, please make yourself known to Pete so he can lock you into the queue and bring you up here. Pete, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So for folks who are participating by video on your computer, at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there will be an icon that says participants. If you click on that, another window will open up, and at the bottom of that, you will have a button you can press to raise your hand. For folks who are participating by phone, if you press *9, that will signal for me that you'd like to make a comment. We'll give it a moment here to see if anybody has any comments this evening. Mayor, I'm not seeing any hands going up.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Seeing none, we'll move to consent items.
Move the resolution. Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Eric. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote?
God damn it. Let me guess. I lost my connection.
Your microphone's fine.
Sorry. There, I got it, I think.
That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, now the next item is a presentation. We have the always lovely Sally Dix with us this evening from Bravo Greater Des Moines. Sally, what a pleasure to have you. And no, it's been a tough year. And I heard your presentation at MAC the other morning, and just so pleased and thrilled with the work that you and your team are doing in light of the circumstances that we're dealing with. So thank you for your leadership and great work, and we look forward to hearing from you. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. It's always such a pleasure to see you, and so grateful for the opportunity to present here tonight. Susan Judkins represents the City of Clive on the Bravo board, and she's been a wonderful advocate and colleague and ambassador for us, and I'm really appreciative of the chance to share some of our information. Now, are you all seeing the Bravo slide? Is that what you see? That's what I see. I just want to make sure that that's what everyone's got. Great. As usual, I'm going to run through a lot of work in a few slides out of respect for your time, but please know that I'm happy to take any questions as we get through it. First and foremost, I always just like to start with a reminder of who Bravo is and where we came from. We were formed primarily to serve as a centralized grant funder for the arts, culture, and heritage community. We're able to leverage the resources of the region in a way that each individual community would not be as effective if they were doing their own thing. But I do want to remind everyone that we have a vision that's much broader than being just that grant maker. Certainly our most effective tool is the grant making, and that's what we're best known for and what we'll always go back to. but we're also working hard to provide leadership on important arts and cultural issues and opportunities beyond grant making. There are certain efforts and initiatives that a single grant to a single organization simply can't achieve, and Bravo's really leaning into that space to make sure that we've got projects and programs that are leveraging arts, culture, and heritage along with regional priorities. We hope that our vision and mission express that and our strategic values, but just want to make sure that everyone knows where we're headed. Unfortunately, COVID-19 and 2020 is not a great year for arts and culture or for Bravo as we seek to advance those objectives. The data that you're seeing here, the statistics that you're seeing here are just from the first quarter of the pandemic. So April, May, June, these are the numbers that we saw at that point. You can see that arts and culture fell 33.1%. Total financial impact to the cultural organizations in the state, $31.2 million, almost 3 million people lost attendance. 96% of the cultural organizations reported that they had to cancel events, and 63% of our cultural organizations across the state said that they had to modify their operating status, whether that means going from in-person to all virtual or some hybrid model, certainly getting creative there. When we look at that, those changes, the attendance numbers and the modified operating status, obviously the financial impact of those changes is significant. This is data collected from Americans for the Arts. Organizations were asked to report how severe they expect the impact to be on their organization, and those top three bullets, severe to extremely severe, 86% of the organizations in the state reported that it's extremely severe. For those of you, again, that are not aware, Bravo is also a nonprofit. We are almost 100% funded with hotel motel tax revenue. And I know no one wants to look at another set of financial statements, but as a funder to our organization, we want to make sure that you see our financial picture too. Although we're not specifically a cultural organization, we were also dramatically affected by the pandemic. Our original FY20 hotel motel budget was almost $5 million. It was a banner year. It was going to break records for us and allow us to invest more in the community than ever before. As of June 30, we closed the fiscal year at just about $4 million. So our revenue was down about 20% from what we expected. But I'm incredibly proud to tell you that we were able to pay 100% of the grant commitments that we had already made. We did not have to take any money back from any cultural partner that was expecting those investments. Not only did we not have to take the money back, but we were able to advance those quarterly payments thanks to sound financial planning. Susan Judkins serves on the Finance Committee. Many conversations took place to make sure that we would be insulated should something happen and be able to insulate our partners. Never anticipated this, but we were prepared for it. So not only were we able to honor the payments, but we were also able to advance those dollars to organizations that needed it. We were also able to continue all of our grant programs in 2020, not just our general operating support program that we're best known for, but also our capital campaign and project grant program and the public art grant program that supports programs across the region in all of our communities. That's the good news, is that we were able to put a lot of dollars out at a time when organizations needed them. Unfortunately, that really dipped into our cushion, our cash on hand. And when you couple that with our projections for FY21, which are 50% of what our projections for FY20 were, we definitely have a lot less cash on hand and a lot less available to do the work. That said, we still have work to do, and we're still eager to do that work and continue to invest in the arts, culture, and heritage landscape in our region. Our board has spent a lot of time actually really thinking about what is our best strategy for moving forward. And the good news is we were having some good conversations prior to COVID. We are simply accelerating some of those strategies and reimagining the scale at which we'll be able to execute. So first and foremost, we are going to continue to fund every eligible arts, culture, and heritage organization. We are not looking to scale down who is eligible for funding from Bravo. We were built to be a regional funder, and we want to continue to pitch that really wide tent. One of the things that we are looking at, though, is making sure that eligibility alone doesn't necessarily warrant funding. We want to make sure that as stewards of your dollars, that we're investing strategically. And simply being an arts, culture, or heritage organization is no longer enough to receive funding from Bravo. We want to make sure that we're basing awards on strong, consistent, evaluative criteria that include not only the attributes of strong and healthy nonprofits, but also advancing regional cultural priorities that we've all agreed are critical to make sure that arts and culture are integrated into quality of life and economic development. And finally, we are reimagining our grant programs. We typically have a one-size-fits-all model for our operating grants, and that's just not a structure we can maintain, mostly because it doesn't work for the organizations we were formed to support. I know for example, the Clive Historical Society has a very different staffing structure and a very different capacity to complete an application than an organization like the Science Center or the Zoo, some of our larger cultural organizations. So we're looking at how we can make our process more feasible and sustainable, not only for us, but also for the organizations that we support. Some COVID considerations that go into making these changes that we imagine for ourselves. First and foremost, we have clear recognition of cultural partner operating challenges. There is no normal. And so although we want to be moving in a direction of being reviewing these applications in this way, we want to recognize that we do not want to put additional burden on our cultural partners at a time when they just simply don't have the bandwidth. So that may adjust our strategy a little bit. We also have to acknowledge that this is a best case scenario, but our plan is a best case scenario, but our resources are not a best case scenario. So our limited resources and a limited capacity may affect our ability to make the investments the way that we want to. And then also we have to acknowledge Bravo capacity. We were a huge team of 3 coming into this year. We had aspirations to grow and add a couple of more staff positions. Human resources right now are our rate limiting factor on what we're able to accomplish in the community. But given obviously the reductions in funding and our desire to put as much funding into the cultural community as possible, our entire staff took partial furloughs over the summer, and we did have to execute a reduction in force. So we are now a small but mighty team of 2, and have to recognize that while we have grand visions and lots that we want to achieve, it's just the 2 of us right now, and so we have to take into consideration what we can accomplish. So we are ready to implement updated community investment programs and looking forward to rolling those out. We've been in close contact with our cultural partners to make sure that we're not designing things in a vacuum. Still iterating on that, but hope to have those programs launched soon and be ready to distribute funds for 2021. One thing that we won't be able to do is we won't be able to add additional dollars to our capital campaign and project grants. That's the only grant program that's actually mandated in our 2080s. And sometimes we've been able to add funding to that. This year, our funding level is going to be the minimum amount that's required by the 2080. We also are not going to be able to run the public art grant program for this grant cycle. We think this is a fantastic program. It's been really well received, and we love the impact that it's been able to have over the last couple of years. But we really need to dial in on our core focus and purpose, which is to support a strong and healthy cultural sector. And so we're not going to be able to fund that program. Both of those investments will be brought back online as soon as we can. We're not discontinuing them. We're just putting them on hibernation for 2021. And then the other implication for our cultural partners is that we are going to have to change our cycle. I don't want to get into the weeds of how we do things, but we're going to end up not being able to do a full year grant cycle. We'll do 2 6-month grant cycles, and we won't be able to make awards until we've received the funding. So instead of January checks going out, organizations are going to have to wait until April until we have the money on hand because of the lag time and how we earn it. We simply just don't want to put ourselves in a position of ever having to take money back. So we're going to make our commitments in April and make sure that the awards that we're committing to are awards that we can honor. I want to leave you with this quote. It's certainly not a rosy picture that I'm here to present tonight, but it is, there is so much innovation and so much creativity. And despite the challenges that our community, that our sector, that our nation is facing, arts and culture organizations are absolutely forging ahead, and their creativity and resiliency, they're really offering amazing things to their patrons and donors and volunteers and to our region. And I just think it's important for all of us to remember that a true measure of a nation's vitality or a region's vitality is really the cultural and technological creativity. I'd be so happy to share stories of great, amazing, innovative things that are being done. I do want to respect your time and the rest of your agenda, but it's really a terrible but exciting time that we're in. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to work with all of you and shepherd funds from the city of Clive and the other 16 communities that invest in Bravo. We do have some exciting things ahead, and I appreciate the opportunity to present, and happy to take any questions.
Well, this is Susan, and I'd like to just thank you so much, Sally, for all you've done and for such a great report. I think the council might be interested to know about our planned conversation coming up on Monday for a cultural conversation, a little bit of insight and our attention to that.
Yes, on Monday, we're having a board work session to discuss our path forward on cultural equity. The Bravo strategic plan includes, as one of our core objectives, it already was, includes development of a cultural equity statement with action items by the end of FY21. That's our metric. And so we're going to have a facilitated conversation with the full board about what that means, what the definition of cultural equity is, what are some internal actions that we feel we can take, what's our framing, our strategic objective with doing this work, and then also start to consider what our external opportunities are, what are ways we can leverage our resources to make sure that we're having a broader impact than just at our own table. So I think it's going to be a robust conversation. We will not have anything finished at the end of our conversation on Monday, but I think it's time certainly for our board to continue our work already and move that dialogue forward. Look forward to reporting back as that gets developed.
So Sally, I have
other questions or comments for Sally.
Yeah, I just have a quick comment and then one question. You know, the work you're doing is obviously very, very important. So just appreciate your leadership. You know, I guess my comment is that when all this is over, people are going to be starved for plays and shows. And so, you know, the demand's going to come back, right? It's going to be there. We just got to get through this. So I think it's really important that you continue what you're doing. My question is, there was a time, I think it was maybe a couple years ago, where you were looking, or Bravo was looking at getting some shared office space with the MPO or some co-located office space. Whatever happened with that? Did that kind of fall through?
Yeah, we have relocated our offices but we were not able to come to alignment with that space at the MPO. It was too big for what Bravo needed, and trying to align multiple different partners to fill that space. So it would have been a co-working space for multiple different organizations. And there just wasn't the coalition at the time that we needed to make the move. So we have relocated our office space. We're not in the Temple anymore. We're still downtown, but didn't work out to work in the MPO space.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments, council, for Sally? Well, Sally, I would just say that since Bravo's inception, the group, and now really under your leadership for the majority of its existence, has operated in a very nimble, lean fashion. You've referenced a couple of times your mighty staff of 3, now down to 2. And I remember we started with none and went that way for a while, you know, and for Bravo to have the level of success that it's had with just a record hospitality, hotel motel situation and a robust economy, you certainly will be back. And that's, you know, that planning and that operation has teed it up well for Bravo to survive long term. And so really appreciate your leadership. And I know it's a lot to work on, but you're not slowing down any, that's pretty clear. So thank you for being here with us. Thank you for being a cheerleader for the Des Moines metro area and arts and culture nationally. You're certainly a look to for that. So thank you. And thank you, Susan, for your work on that important board. So great to have you with us.
Thanks so much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. I will echo your thanks to Susan. She's been an outstanding board member, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you tonight. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Sally. And a happy Thanksgiving also to you and your family.
You
Okay.
too. Thanks, Scott.
Yes, we'll move to action items now. And the first item is a public hearing regarding the 2021 sanitary sewer lining program. And Matthew, did we post appropriate public notice?
Yes, Your Honor, that was published in the Des Moines Register on October 28th, 2020.
Thank you, Matthew. Mr. May, lead us in this one if you would.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight before you is the annual sanitary sewer lining contract. This year's project involves a little over a mile of lining of 8, 10, and 12-inch main. It's an area, mainly a commercial area located just south of Hickman between the interstate and Northwest 104th. We received 5 bids, fairly close together for the most part, and had a really good bid from Municipal Pipe and Tool for $154,000. This program, as you remember, is part of us taking all our sanitary sewer pipe that's clay and getting it lined, helping extend the life of it. After the sewer study, we increased the amount of lining annually. This year's, like I said, included a little bit of off-road. It's in some easement areas. Was expecting a little higher bids, but was pleasantly surprised with the number we got. So this is before you for your approval.
Questions for Jeff, Council?
Hey, Jeff, can all that work be done without disturbing the existing soils and sidewalks and what have you, or do we have to do some tear out?
No, this is the lining. They go in one manhole, they invert a tube and push it through the line itself, pull it out the other manhole, and then cure it in place. So there is no excavation necessary for this.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, this is Eric. How do you prioritize which sanitary sewers that you want to reline?
We're looking at the clay pipe that's left, and we look at numbers and basically try to get the footage to match where we can, put these programs together. Basically everything, most of the pipe east of the interstate is clay. As I said, we stepped up a couple years ago and started doing more pipe every year with the intent of in the next several years getting all our clay pipe lined. As far as priority, if we have any priority, it's not real evident. There's not a big difference. It's just knowing that all our clay pipe, the way the joints are, leak a little bit. And so it's just a matter of getting it all done at some point. Structurally, it's pretty good. It's just got a little bit of I&I. This does provide a structural component and extends the life of it as well.
Thank you.
And Jeff, you've been doing this now for how many years, lining the system? I recall from the early 2000s.
15 maybe. 12 or 15 maybe. It goes back quite a ways. I'll have to get that exact number for you.
Great way to preserve the asset. Other questions, Council, for Jeff?
Jeff, with that, along with the mayor's question right there, do you see an end date when we'll have the majority of the pipe that's been lined, or is it an ongoing program, or how does that work?
Well, like I said, for us, it's a finite number on the east side of the interstate for the clay pipe. We kind of combine this with our program. You know, we looked at Clark Street. We're not going to line Clark Street because we know we're replacing it. The same thing with Harbach. So those clay pipes are going to get completely replaced as part of the reconstruction project. We'll look at some of the other streets. 99th Court would be another one that we wouldn't line. Kind of fit it in to if there is no immediate plan to replace in the near future, we're going to go ahead and line it. If it's identified as replacement, we'll just wait because structurally the pipe is still good.
Other questions, Council, for Jeff?
I would move we close the public hearing.
Second.
It's moved by John, seconded by Eric to close the public hearing. But before we do, is there anybody here participating in the call tonight to speak on this item? If so, make yourself known to Pete and he'll get you in the system here.
Reminder for folks to use that raise hand icon. Mayor, I don't see any hands going up.
Okay, seeing none, will the council please vote? Passes 5-0 to close the public hearing.
Move the resolution approving plans and specs.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Eric. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? Passes 5-0.
Move the receipt of bids.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Eric. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? Passes 5-0.
Move the resolution awarding the contract to Municipal Pipe in the field in the amount of $154,223.50.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Eric. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And that item passes 5-0. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to action item number 2, which is regarding a site plan at 2195 Northwest 156th Street and Valvoline. And Amanda, you're going to lead this one for us. I think, Amanda, do we have you?
Amanda, I think you're muted right now.
Yes, sorry, all my controls went away, so I had to stop the screen share to get them back. I think that's one of the glitches we've been having a little bit. So good evening, Mayor and Council. Let me just get that screen pulled back up here. As you'd said, we have the site plan for the new Valvoline instant oil change. We've talked quite a bit about this general area over the last year or so. With the new Nebraska Furniture Mart going into the old Dolls, the Come and Go that is just north of this. So this is that one remaining outlot to be developed. So the building here is a little over 2,100 square feet. It is a kind of drive-through setup here. It's using the existing accesses from Northwest 156th Street down here, and then the other access off of Hickman that has those existing easements to allow access to the Come and Go site and to this property as well. So customer traffic would be able to access the Valvoline both from 156th Street. They could use this driveway opening, or to come around through the Come and Go in this way and then use the drive-through. This portion here that the hand is on would be the exit only portion for those pull-through service bays. The open space on site meets all of the requirements, actually exceeds the requirements. The buffer to the south is largely in existence, as you can see from this aerial here. And when Come and Go did their development, they filled in and brought this up to the required tree count, replaced some trees that had died. So there's nothing really needed down there for this project. The building is a primarily masonry construction. If I can get the architectural to load here. Almost there. There we go. You can see they have the residential peaked roof. The venting, though not screened, has been colored to match the shingles here. and is on the sides facing away from the streets, so it won't be readily visible to anyone using the sidewalk or the come and go site, though you may see it if you are a customer here pulling in. There is a sign on just this elevation here that will face Northwest 156th Street, as well as a monument sign proposed. And then on the north elevation pointed toward the come and go property, there are two signs just indicating that this is a exit only for the drive-through. There are no signs or significant site lighting towards the residential to the south here. There are a couple wall pack lights above the walk doors. Those are downcast. And there are a few existing site lights as well on the property that are already south here down in this area that were installed with the Nebraska Furniture Mart project. And then you can see there is a light here to be added and a light here to be added for freestanding site lighting, the pole light style lights. So we're expecting that to have a relatively low impact. The photometric plan shows that it really doesn't splay past this drive at all. So we're happy with that lighting, and it is a lower Kelvin value, which is how much blue light is in it. It's at the 3000 Kelvin, which meets the recommendations of the American Medical Association. The existing utilities are all on site or readily accessible. They are adding a new fire hydrant, and a sand oil separator will also be installed located inside of the building. The stormwater detention is handled in an off-site regional basin that is located over by the Kinder Care up along Hickman. So on site, they're addressing the water quality volume and recharge in the bioretention that was installed with the Come and Go project. There will be a little bit of work in that area, but it will be restored. And then also through soil quality restoration on site. We did get one email from a neighbor. They largely just had questions about the project regarding lighting and signage and noise and some of those concerns. So we responded to them with that, and they thanked us for the follow-up information, and then did not participate in the planning and zoning meeting. And I do not believe I saw them on the call tonight, so I don't believe they have any further concerns. And with that, staff would recommend approval of the site plan. No comments are remaining. Your staff report had indicated we had not received the fully executed easement documents yet. We do now have a copy of that has been signed by the property owner adjacent and the tenant Come and Go adjacent, as well as by the Valvoline representatives. So we have everything now that we needed from that. And Ms. Neal and Mr. Barrett are on the line if you had any additional questions.
Thanks, Amanda. Can you speak a little bit to the dumpster garbage containers? I didn't look at it when I was reviewing earlier, and I just thought of it sitting here. It's kind of a unique pad, the setup here with exposure all the way around. And so I'm curious about that and the landscaping associated with that.
Yes. Let's see if I can get this to having a few problems here. Okay. So here is the landscaping plan. You can see they are buffering around that dumpster enclosure with the trees, or yes, trees that they've installed there. That placement allows access through this drive.
Right there.
Sorry, what was that? Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm having a little bit of quality on my end of it. So it's located on the east end of the building there.
Yes.
Okay, got it. With full landscaping around it. Good.
Yep, landscaping around it, and that allows the truck to be able to back in and pull out. And we have the turn exhibit in your packet as well. I can pull that up if you want, but since I'm having a little bit of loading problems, I'll only go to that page if someone wants to see it.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, council?
Hey, Amanda, this is Eric. Two quick questions. One, does staff have any concerns about increased traffic? You've got the Come and Go there. You've got a Valvoline, Nebraska Furniture Mart. And the second question is, what precautions are we taking for hazardous waste and those type of spills?
Sure. So that sand oil separator is what's required to maintain that water quality for cleanup. For it, manages anything coming out of that building to make sure that it has a pre-treatment before going through to the wastewater system. So that's how those are typically handled. And then your other question, I'm sorry, I just totally blanked on what it was. Can you repeat it for me? Your first one?
Sure. What's staff's thought about the increase of traffic where you've got Valvoline, you've got Come and Go, Nebraska Furniture Mart, all clustered in a fairly tight business district?
Yep. So we don't have any significant concerns on the traffic here. We know that 156th Street already has some planned improvements to the intersection with the Hickman corridor study. So we aren't anticipating that this additional development here for the Valvoline will have any significant impact that will change any of those recommendations that are already intended to be made in the future.
Thank you.
So Amanda, this is
Hey, Amanda, what are the operating hours?
I
I'm
believe
sorry,
the
Ted,
operating.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Amanda.
I think it was in Brad Barrett, if you can correct me. Was it 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. was your typical operating hours?
Yeah, typically Monday through Friday, 8 to 7, and then 8 to 5 or 6 on Saturday, and 9 to 5 on Sunday.
Thank you.
Okay. Ted, go ahead. Thank you.
Sure. So Amanda, I went out there yesterday. It's a pretty tight spot there. I believe there's a sidewalk in between the Come and Go and that lot. Is that sidewalk still going to remain?
Yes, it will. You can see here, there's a little cluttered since it's the landscape sheet, but that walkway was laid out with the Come and Go project to service both lots. So it comes down from the 156th Street walk. It does allow connection to this building here, but it will have the breaks in it for those ingress, egress, easements to allow the traffic to pass through to access the Valvoline site.
Okay. And then there's a few trees that have been recently planted, it looks like. Are those just being moved, or what's happening with those?
Some trees are having to be removed. If I can get to the demo plan here, it will show which ones. So there are a few in this area that are going to be removed. And then those will be I don't believe they're intending to try to save the actual tree, but new trees will be planted to replace those tree counts.
Okay.
Other questions, Council?
Move approval of the site plan.
I think Mike might have had a question.
Mike, go ahead.
Sorry, Professor, I was on mute. And this it's a great plan. I like the area or what you've done up there with the multiple sites. But like Discount Tires, I really like what they've done with that on the overnight cars and the stocking up of cars. When Discount Tires came in, they said they wouldn't be doing that, and they've held to it. It looks really good at night in that parking lot down there. And so what would we expect on this corner when we drive by any given night? Multiple cars out, cars being left in the middle of the night for morning services.
I'll let Mr. Barrett respond to that. With the drive-through setup, I don't believe they typically have drop-off appointments, but I'll let him chime in on that.
No, the site should be completely empty at night. We're first come, first serve, no appointments, so there should be no cars there.
Right, thank you. Second.
So it's been moved by John and seconded by Michael. Quickly, we have Amanda, if you would introduce Brad again, and I think you said that somebody else was here from the parent company. If we could just have those two introduce themselves, state their name and address for the record, and then make any comments that they may have.
Yes, so Mr. Brad Barrett is on the line. He is with Ivy Lane, who is the parent company here. And then Nicole Neal is also on the line. She's with CDA representing the engineering and design firm.
Good.
Hi, this is
If either
Nicole
of you
Neal.
have any comments?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, no, just going to say 3405 Southeast Crossroad Drive in Grimes. No further comments. Just wanted to say we appreciate everything. And thank you so much for the wonderful presentation, Amanda.
Brad Barrett, 545 Waterbury Circle in Des Moines. And again, Amanda's done a great job here. I appreciate very much what she's done here. We're very excited about having our second Clive location.
Thank you, Brad, very much for being here. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion by the council? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And that passes 5-0. Good luck. Thank you. And looking forward to having another great new business in Clive. Okay, we'll move to action item number 3, which is the site plan for Wilden Drive, Berkshire North Villa Townhomes. And Amanda, this is
Good
yours.
evening again. So tonight we have a site plan approval for the Berkshire North Villa Townhomes. On your consent agenda was the approval of the revised construction drawings. So in 2017, the preliminary plat for this area was approved. You can see here is what the plat was for. And then they final platted plat 9, which included the north and south sides of Wilden. And so what's remaining here in an outlot, they're taking the north portion of Wilden Drive here that will be extended over to Devonshire. This is the area we are talking about tonight. So it was originally, the preliminary plat showed a continuation of this attached townhome development, but they have found that they would like to move towards a detached townhome setup. So we have the kind of donut lots here with the common lot around and the common lot private drive behind with the alley loaded garages. So it'll be very similar to what is adjacent to it, just it'll be a detached product instead of attached, and it will be 12 lots. So there were very minor changes on the construction drawings. It was largely updating the pavement standards to our current requirements and then moving this utility easement here had to be vacated and shifted because there's now going to be a house sitting on top of it. So those are really the significant changes for those construction drawings. And on the site plan here, you can see they are reflecting the street trees that are required along Wilden and Devonshire. Excuse me. And the comment letter had indicated that we were waiting on final details for the architectural plans on one of those buildings. The corner lot that faces Devonshire is required to have a main front door facing Devonshire since it is one of our parkway streets. So you can see here are 4 of the architectural elevations for the other lots. And then we have received those revised plans for that 5th house, that corner lot configuration. So we are happy with that, and that comment is addressed now. Here's the rendering. And then you can see here is kind of that specification sheet that shows those elevations. So we don't have any remaining open comments on this, this site plan. And with that, I would recommend approval. And Bob Gibson and David Albright are both on the line if you have questions.
Council, questions for Amanda?
Are these going to be on a slab or will they have basements?
They have basements.
And do we know what the anticipated price point, generally speaking, will be?
I will have to let Mr. Albright answer the price point question, but you can see here is the just one of the basement layouts reflecting a family room, bedroom in the basement, bathroom. They're all fairly similar with that kind of basement layout on the different plans.
This is David Albright, 3100 White Pine Court, Waukee. The price point is going to start out in the low 300s.
Thanks, David.
Other questions?
And are these 2 or 3 car garages?
These ones are all 2-car attached garages.
Move approval of the site plan.
Second.
It's moved by John, seconded by Michael. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? That passes 5-0. Thank you, Amanda and company. Good luck. Okay, we'll move to the 4th action item, which is a proposed ordinance number 1096, repealing ordinance number 686 for Stratford Commons Urban Renewal Area. And Joyce, you're going to lead us on that one.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me okay?
You bet.
Okay. The ordinance that you have before you tonight for consideration, it relates to one of the districts of our urban renewal area that was initially created in 1991. So we have one urban renewal area that was amended multiple times at different points to add different areas. And this one particular that this ordinance speaks to is the Stratford Commons area that was added in 1999. And then the city first received its TIF dollars on this area in 2002. And by state code, they have a 20-year life. So they also, the state code requires you to do is repeal the ordinance that you initially adopted in order prior to its expiration, which would be at the end of June 30th, 2021. So I would recommend waiving readings to adopt it tonight so that it can be filed with Polk County by December 1st. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Joyce, Council?
I'd move that the rule requiring that an ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to this meeting be suspended with respect to ordinance number 1096.
Second.
Moved by Michael, seconded by Susan to suspend the rules. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? Passes 5-0.
I'd move that ordinance number 1096 be considered, placed upon its passage, and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Michael, seconded by Susan. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And that item passes 5-0. Let the record reflect that ordinance number 1096 is declared to have been enacted. Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to discussion item now regarding 2021 Clive legislative priorities. And Matt, you're going to facilitate that discussion for us.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. It's we're coming upon the 2021 state legislative session. And as is usual this time of the year, I'd like to discuss with you all any updates that the council would like to make to your legislative priorities. These are mainly focused on state government, these priorities, and staff over the last month or so had some dialogue in terms of some potential adjustments to the existing priorities. And in the packet, we included kind of a track changes version of the previous 2020 priorities and showed some changes that we would like you all to consider for 2021. I know I included this in the memo in the packet, just briefly stepping through the 3 changes that we're proposing, and then any additional changes you all would like to see. First one being the discussion on impact fees has been a long one in the state of Iowa, going back to a Supreme Court case in the early 2000s related to the city of West Des Moines and impact fees, and basically were declared illegal at that point. And what we would recommend, at least, is advocating for the legislature to truly study this issue in terms of cost benefits of development impacts to a community and existing taxpayers. So knowing that it's a long-term discussion is really kind of trying to start the ball rolling down the hill again, and commissioning the study. So that'd be one recommendation that we have kind of on a long-term priority for revenue flexibility for development activity. The second one really relates to some of the work that we're doing, continue to do, and we talked a couple meetings ago about some technical grants that the city was a part of receiving related to FEMA and some Army Corps Silver Jackets technical grant funding related to potential flood mitigation projects. And so another one that we've inserted as kind of keeping with that theme is really advocating that the state have some financial kind of skin in the game, if you will, related to some of these pre-disaster mitigation grants. So really the focus is, before the disaster is struck, can we start to remedy some of these challenging properties that are impacted by flooding in Clive and in other communities, and the state having a role in that conversation. So that is the second one that we wanted to mention. And related to that second one, there's kind of a part B to it, if you will, is the Iowa DOT is one of the few DOTs in the upper Midwest that is not required to follow an MS4 permit. This basically is a stormwater permit, similar to what every city is required to follow for our stormwater systems in our communities, and the DOT is not required to do that for road projects. We would advocate that should be something that the DOT and the state of Iowa should want to see changed. Are they ensure in terms of compliance and in terms of the impervious roadway surfaces that the DOT maintains? And so we would advocate that should be something that should change for Iowa, and that the DOT should be required to come into stormwater compliance for any roadway project that they undertake. Right now, it ends up being kind of a negotiation, if you will, in terms of between the cities and if it's a project within a city jurisdiction. So this is a similar discussion we've had with them on 128th and Hickman, and know that will come along with the large Hickman interchange, I-35 interchange project that'll come here in the future. So it's very much something that we would like to see put in place as kind of a guarantee potentially before the interchange project. And then lastly, with working through the pandemic over the last number of months and questions related to the home rule and what does it really mean in terms of application and the city's ability to have flexibility to do public health practices, any kind of emergency responses in communities. There's obviously been a lot of debate over the last number of months of what are cities and counties allowed to do versus what the governor's control is. And really going forward, learning from this pandemic and making sure we provide some clarity on what does the home rule really allow cities and counties to do in Iowa, so we don't have that uncertainty, whether a community wants to do something like a mask mandate or not, at least making it clear through the home rule amendment and state law of what is allowed, what isn't allowed. So that's the last item that we would offer for your consideration. But be happy to take any questions on that or any other ideas that the council changes the council would like to see to these priorities, and then obviously whether or not you agree or disagree or want to see these changes that we're offering here.
Council, questions, comments for Matt?
They look good to me.
Me as well.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I agree.
Good here.
Hey, Matt, can you just add a little color on each of these where the league is at? I mean, we know and understand where they're at with property taxes, but I'm interested really in the MS4 compliance, and the home rule obviously is one that they've clearly advocated for, but the coronavirus obviously takes it to a whole new level. So do we have feedback from them on these, or even from other cities on some of these?
Not at this time. I'm not aware of the league having any, their legislative priorities tend to be a little bit broader. These particular requests are pretty granular, particularly the MS4 one related to the DOT. So I haven't specifically had a conversation with them if they've even thought about tackling it. I would offer, and that on the home rule side, I would sense that they would be supportive and kind of fits under their higher level priority of having home rule truly be home rule for cities and counties, particularly cities, obviously in the league's case. So I would say that they would be advocates of item number 6 and the adjustments there. But no, there hasn't been any specific conversations, at least that I'm aware of, in terms of league priorities related to the 2 stormwater ones that are mentioned here.
I would say that we had our MyAlg meeting, Zoom meeting last night, and it was discussion with the legislators. And there, backfill came up multiple times, but there was really no substantive discussion about that topic, at least last night. And of course, we had several Democrats and one Republican that were on the call. So relatively unproductive, I would say, but no real discussion around the backfill, which I'm sure we'll get more into as we move forward. But it's obvious why that is one for us.
Yep, right here. I'm highlighting that one.
Council, I guess anything else from Matt? If not, we'll move these forward and start to firm them up.
Yep, our next step would be is the next council meeting we'll clean this up into a final version and bring it back for your adoption. And then following that, we will then share it with our legislators before they head into the 2021 session.
Outstanding. Okay, let's move down to reports now. Pete, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you, Your Honor. So a couple updates for the team on communications with the rest of with the community and businesses. We've got 2 major engagement activities going on with the Create Clive 86th Street Neighborhoods project. We had a good meeting today with a number of the department heads and leaders of that project, and the community engagement on that will be ramping up even more in the coming weeks and months. Same is true with the Water Resources Master Planning project. Later here in November, we plan to be launching the website. There will be a hub for a lot of that community engagement. We look forward to sharing information about that in the coming weeks. Second, all of you are aware of the rapidly spiking virus activity in Clive and the broader metro and the broader state. One very sobering number that Matt and I were looking at yesterday is when you look at across the country, municipalities, 50,000 or more, in the places where the virus activity is ramping up the fastest, 7 of the top 20 in the country right now are municipalities in Iowa. Des Moines Metro is number 20 on that list. The number 1 on that list is Cedar Rapids. So this is a very important time for the city to be reinforcing what the council and mayor you have already established, which is we need to do our best to take care of ourselves, to take care of each other, and do what it takes to get our businesses and our schools and other institutions back to normal as best we can. So we'll continue to use our good persuasive techniques and our various communication platforms to get that important information out. As you see us sharing that information on social media, if you're inclined to share that with through your own pages, that helps us get the message out further. You all are people who are trusted in this community, and so when people see a trusted voice talking about the importance of good social distancing and wearing masks and taking care of your family and your loved ones and your neighbors, I think it has a positive effect on the entire community and will help us flatten this curve. That's also been the message we've heard consistently from the governor's office this week and from the Iowa Department of Public Health. More will be shared, I'm sure, from the governor's office, and we continue to watch that closely as we try to make sure we align messages so that they are consistent and also really emphasize the urgency of this moment. Finally, we're getting into snow season, so I get to put on the pothole Pete and the snowplow Pete hats again. This year, for the snow activity, as we get ready to hopefully not too often send out our operators to get our streets cleaned up after snow and ice events, I think we've got another tool in the toolbox that we're going to start using. This will be the e-notify system that is both text and email that's powered by our website. We are in the process of testing right now to make sure that the emails and texts that are generated by the site don't just look like sort of gobbledygook, but actually come through and render well on a phone or whatever email browser you might be using. We've had some success, and I think that by the time we get into some of these bigger snow events, we'll be ready to start using it. And we'll ask folks to come to the site and sign up to get those alerts as well. Right now, our goal is to use the e-notify system for not only snow, but we want to be prepared to use it for any big water events that we have. And we'll continue to sort of evaluate how successful we are getting folks to sign up, and then whether or not we can expand out into some other types of communications that we would like to, where we'd like to give people that texting option in particular. But for now, the focus is going to be on the big snow events when we need vehicles off the street, and the big water events when we need to make sure we have people getting property and themselves out of harm's way.
Pete?
Yes.
On that one, how do we push people to your site to sign up, right? Is there you enroll, like, I'm sorry, I can't remember the phone deal, the Code Red, or can't remember but what it's called, but do you just go to the site and put your email in?
Yep, here, I'll show everybody where this is going to be. One moment.
I think it's a great tool.
Okay. So let me clear this up so everybody can see it. So currently, we don't have, we'll make this quite a bit more front and center so folks will be able to get to it quickly. But here in our community engagement area, stay informed, we have this area. This is a template that's native to the revised sites that they build. For weather and other emergency alerts, when we choose to update the global alert banner, so that's the big red bar that will be at the top of the site when it's turned on, for folks who have selected to receive emails or text when they sign up here. So let's say I sign up for text. After I put my email address, I put my personal email address in there. I say I want to get texts. Just hit sign in. And my phone number. The sign in doesn't actually require you to know anything about a password or anything like that. It's just a way then that the system can register you and put you in that group of people that have opted in. Then you can select, or should be able to select, if you're signed in, your text and your email, and then hit save.
Could you send out that exact address right there with the, I think I can't read it on my glasses, but e-notify or whatever it is, that, yeah, e-notify address. Could you send that out to the council? You know, if we're going to push out on social media, I think it's a great tool. But if we could send that exact address instead of them, you know, navigating to it, I think we get a lot more signups and sure solve a lot for police and fire at some point.
Absolutely, and we'll go a step further than that, actually, Councilman, and bring it out here to the front page of the site and probably put just a simple icon here in this primary navigation area so folks can immediately see it and go straight to that spot. And then when we share it across platforms, we'll share the actual address that is one click straight to the spot.
Great.
I do want to practice a little bit more so we make sure we're sending people a really good, clean email. One of the things that I'm a little concerned about right now is that when you get your text, like I just did confirming that I had signed that address up, it looks like it comes from an address or from a phone number in Michigan. And so I want to make sure, I want to see if we have a chance to clean that up a little bit.
So Pete, did you say this is live now though, that people can enroll?
They can, but I've been using it and I have not been promoting it because I want to make sure that we're ready to give people a good experience. The good news about this as well is we don't have to opt into sending a text or an email every single time we set up the banner. So for example, if we had the COVID banner back up there and we were just making small changes to our COVID page, I'll show you how this works. When you click to update the global alert, we have it preloaded. So if we have a snow emergency right now, we can put it up there quickly. But then to actually send the text and email notification, you have to select this box. If you don't, it will just put the banner up there and not send the text and email out to folks who have opted in. If you do have it checked, of course it will. So it gives us some customization and a little better control.
Would it help if council signed up for it? Maybe you've asked too, I'm sorry, but would it help if council and the mayor signed up for it and let us, be the guinea pigs for you on some of these, or you want to work them out without?
I would like to use you all as guinea pigs, and I will work with Matt and we'll send you an email when I'm ready to work out a few more of these issues and share that with you. But my goal is to make sure we've got this up and running for the big snow events that we would expect to get starting in December.
Great.
Pete, I just signed up for both of those. It seems like it's working pretty well.
Great. I appreciate the enthusiasm, council members.
You sign me up too while you're at it.
Sorry, that'll be an extra charge, Mayor.
We would be happy to preload all of your cell phone numbers and emails in there. Not a problem.
Yeah, we can take care of that.
Well, I think this is good, and to Michael's point, we just need to feature it as much as possible, not only here, but in all of our other communications in the newsletter, as we start to gear people up for our snow events. Just it cover all the bases with it. Makes good sense to me. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Mayor.
Council, anything else for Pete? Okay, Ted, let's move down to you.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Okay, sir. Eric?
Yeah, a couple quick things, Mayor. I'd like to publicly recognize a couple of our Clive departments. Clive Police Department, Lieutenant Rayberg and Chief Enema, with the grant that they received they pursued and received for the cameras for the 2 new cars. That's great initiative on your part. Also, Clive Fire Department with Assistant Chief Garcia, supported by Chief Rowe. Again, the grant that you folks received for mental health counseling for our EMS and fire folks over there. Again, great initiative. Appreciate you guys reaching out and utilizing those funds right there. It really helps both your employees and the city itself. So just wanted to publicly acknowledge that.
I think we can all agree with that. Thank you, Eric, for that reminder, and great initiative by our departments. Continue to be pleased with that as a general statement, I think. So these are 2 great examples. John, do you have anything?
Just quickly, the Taxpayers Association of Central Iowa, TACI, had a program this week on regional cooperation, and Susan, Kurt Gause from Pleasant Hill and I were on the panel, and the time went by very quickly. Matt, I think, was listening in on that as well, but it gave us an opportunity to highlight all the ways in which the city of Clive cooperates with our neighbors. And thanks to city staff, Cheryl ran a list. We've got over 228 E's, just to give you some idea of the extent of which we cooperate. But anyway, that was a good session, I think. The other 2 things I think will be covered by others, so I won't go into them. DART had a meeting this afternoon on the property tax formula, and I think Matt is going to elaborate on that, so I'll not say anything further. And then the Metro Advisory Council, when we met this week, we spent a good amount of time talking about the issues that Matt, Pete, and the mayor have raised about COVID and home rule and masks and so forth. And Mayor, if you've heard more from Matt McCoy about a meeting of the mayors, be sure to pass that along. But that's all I've got.
Well, John, to that point, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so we had great discussion at MAC about this, and we're having a conference call tomorrow at 10 a.m. Regional conference call with the mayors, similar to the last one that we did. Gee whiz, a couple of months ago. Pretty specific to a county-wide mask mandate, and I know that will be a big part of the discussion tomorrow, but I think something else that came up in our MAC meeting was really other ways that we can band together as a region, and with the governor's office and maybe even the legislature if needed, really talk about the need to be able to do things in our own community. This goes back to the home rule question that we talked about for legislative priorities. But to have clarity on these issues, there's a lot of murkiness in terms of what's legal and what is not, and what we can and can't do, particularly as it relates to issuing a mandate. So we're going to have further discussion on that tomorrow. I think the primary idea there was to take the temperature of all the mayors again and see where we're at on these issues. So more to come, obviously, and we'll look forward to that conversation. So thanks, John, for bringing that up. And because you brought that up, I have nothing else to add. I'll move over to Susan.
Well, one thing I would add to the mask-related discussion, yesterday I participated in a Greater Des Moines Partnership update that David Stark, the head of Unity Point, and Bob Ritz, the head of Mercy One, gave about COVID-19. And it's kind of interesting, both of them have strong connections to Clive, because David Stark is a resident and Bob Ritz's office has been on the Healthy Living campus, although they've had to vacate it because they had 3 positive tests among his administrative staff. So they've all had to deploy to work from home. They said that between their 2 organizations, as of yesterday, they had 500 staff people who are on the bench, is what they called it, all of whom are quarantined for varying reasons. And so that is why they're desperately putting out the word that they don't want people to get sick, because they're not sure they'll have the staff to care for them. And they did get a question during the Zoom call about a mask order, and they joined in saying they really want one to happen. So just passing that on, and given their connections to Clive, you would certainly be welcome to reach out to them independently. The other thing I'd report is that the Polk County Council of Watershed Management Authorities met earlier this week, and most of the conversation really revolved around water quality issues concerning water trails. And there was some good conversation about that. So that would be the extent of my report.
Thank you, Susan. Questions for Susan, council? Okay, we'll move over to Michael.
I have nothing. As John said, I will pass the dart to poor Matt for him to fill us.
Thank you, Your Honor. Also want to thank Leslie for being here tonight and pinch hitting for Christina. So appreciate having Leslie here. In terms of my update, so I'll start off with the DART formula discussion. So this afternoon, I listened in on a conversation for the DART Commission, coming back to the property tax formula that was discussed a month or so ago, and we actually talked about it at the council meeting later that night, about a kind of a light at the end of the tunnel for the property tax formula, which has been discussed for many years. knowing that it was a significant impact on the city of Des Moines in terms of the changes where they would see their levy increasing over time. The DART staff had a specific conversation with Des Moines, kind of worked through some requests from them about how they would be supportive of the change in the formula. And I'll include this in my weekly update too, just kind of the points that they specifically request. The main gist of it is instead of a 5-year phase-in of the higher levy, they're asking for a little bit more time and have it as actually an 8-year phase-in. And then what they're looking for is a commitment from the DART Commission to advocate and seek legislative approval for alternative revenue sources away from property tax, whether that be sales tax, wheel tax, payroll tax, something different than property tax as the dominant revenue source for DART. That was something that they've advocated for. There was a good discussion amongst the commission, and I felt in listening in, there was general support there. They definitely were supportive of the 8-year phase-in, knowing that it was a significant ask of Des Moines in the first place. So they're going to do some additional community outreach in the month of December for that plan, and this will require an update to the 28E to make happen. The one thing that Des Moines included with requesting the DART Commission be supportive of those revenue alternative options is that they suggested that DART not advocate for a raising of the cap of the property tax levy. And instead, even though Des Moines would have to go above that cap, theoretically, for this change in formula, they will buy down their levy with other revenues as they see fit, to keep them at the cap and not require the legislative change but that their investment would be reflective of if the levy was to go up above the cap. So they have kind of a short-term fix that won't require a legislative change for DART to continue forward with these changes. But of course, that is not a forever solution. And so I think Des Moines, rightfully so, wants to see that forever solution, but is willing to find a way for the next 3 years at least to pay their fair share, a higher share in terms of how the formula is allocated, and then kind of keep the DART Commission's kind of feet to the fire on seeing this kind of more sustainable legislative change for revenue alternatives. But so that's kind of the DART, and I'll have some more details of the Des Moines asks in my weekly update for y'all. Any questions on that, or John or Michael, anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
It's a great movement, right? Regardless of where we land now, we're light years ahead of where we were 3-5 years ago between the governance and now this discussion. So
I would agree. And so moving on to other things, Clark Street, just a quick update there. We're long-term forecast, looking at some decent weather next week. And so they are planning to do the mainline paving for the last segment that is to be done. So you'll see some paving there, I believe starting Tuesday next week. And they should be able to get the mainline paving and curbs done next week. And then we'll just have some small pours for driveways to get cleaned up. And so we're just kind of getting that one in, knocking on wood under the wire here. But happy to see that. And then the last segment of phase 1 which is east of 104th Street, will come back in the springtime. So that was one that will be a carryover. And then we'll have the phase 2, which is west of 105th, come before for bidding over the winter. And then so we'll have 2 kind of phases at the same time, but they'll be on separate ends. So good to see that project moving forward. Talked about COVID, and I'll have more details in my weekly update for you all, but it has been impactful for us in a couple staffing areas with positive cases. We're working through that and continuing to deliver services, but we have felt definitely some pain amongst our staff in terms of COVID positive cases. And so we're working through that, hoping that we can minimize that and continue to provide the services that our community expects. Just a reminder too, coming up in a couple weeks here on November 24th at 6:30, and you should have all received a Zoom meeting invite for this, is the University Corridor joint discussion with the City of West Des Moines. Will be a presentation by Confluence, who's the consultant for the project, a lead consultant for the project, and really talking through the visioning there. We'll also, staff will be putting together just kind of some briefing items, kind of a brief for you ahead of time, for some key things to look for, and really looking forward to you all seeing that and providing your input on that important plan for the University Avenue corridor. Lastly, just a note, I'll be out of the state starting tomorrow through Tuesday. Pete will be available if anything comes up. But that's all I have, Your Honor, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Questions, counsel, for Matt?
Mayor, if I could offer on the Clark Street project that Matt was talking about, our plan at this point, assuming everything stays on track and we get finished with the paving, will be over the winter months to convene the neighborhood again to talk about their experience with the first phase and make sure they're clear on what the steps are for the spring to get started on the next parts of the project.
It's a good idea. That's excellent. Well, thank you, Matt and Pete, for that. I have one house cleaning item I forgot to mention earlier. So at our meeting on December 10th, and we're going to be short on meetings this month and next month because of the holidays, I'll be bringing forward the staff and council committee assignments, those recommendations for your review and approval. As I look around and take in the conversations that we have, and this most recent conversation regarding DART is an excellent example. I think we have each of you in great places, making a real difference at the regional table and leading in your respective positions. And so what you will see on this memo is a status quo memo. Unless there's a compelling reason between now and then that a change needs to be made, I would ask you to reach out to me offline. But that's my expectation at this point, and I just wanted to let the council know. Also, with regard to that meeting, as is tradition, that week I have a national meeting to attend, supposedly in Chicago this year. Mayor Pro Tem Edwards, I would ask him to carry the torch, and that's as of right now. Obviously, with the COVID situation seriously inflating, we may or may not have that, so I'm not quite sure, but that's the plan as of now, so just to make all of you aware of that. Okay, anything else, council, for the good of the order? Matthew, any other correspondence that we have?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you, Matthew. Very good. If there's nothing further, I'm going to adjourn us at 7:22. Thanks, everybody, and have a blessed, safe Thanksgiving.